Honorable Prime Minister, to deliver your opening remarks.
Honorable guests, I will speak Armenian, so please take earphones. Հայաստանի Հանրապետության
Honorable President of the Republic of Armenia,
հարգելի ներկաներ,
dear guests, I
Yerevan Dialogue
welcome you to the Yerevan Dialogue,
եւ հիմնումը։
and I commend the launch and the founding of this conference. Obviously, Yerevan Dialogue is an important platform for discussing questions of the international and regional agenda, to share thoughts, to propose ideas. And I wish to immediately address the question that is perhaps of greatest interest to this audience. Is durable and lasting peace in the South Caucasus region possible? Is it realistic? This, of course, is a question to be answered by not only the Republic of Armenia. I will try to answer our share of the question, and I will answer it from the standpoint of the Republic of Armenia. Thus, durable peace in the South Caucasus is not only possible, but also realistic. Let me now present a few key points to substantiate our position and justify why I think so. First, of course, I need to turn firstly to the negotiations on a peace agreement between Armenia and Azerbaijan. You've recently heard much that 50% of the peace agreement has been agreed upon. There have been statements about it at different fora, and in practice, let me tell you what that means. In the current draft of the peace agreement, with the current results, the draft's preamble and 13 articles have been fully agreed upon, and 3 further articles, which each consist of about 2 sentences, are partly agreed. And to be more specific, one of the sentences of these 2 articles is agreed, the other sentence is not agreed. The Republic of Armenia, taking into account that the agreed articles of the peace agreement between Armenia and Azerbaijan actually contain the internationally accepted core provisions for establishing relations, we propose to take what is currently agreed, to sign it, to have a fundamental document, and then to continue discussions of the other questions, especially because in one of the agreed articles of the peace agreement, the article stipulates a mechanism that enables both sides, the Republic of Armenia and the Republic of Azerbaijan, through a joint mechanism to continue the negotiations. Let alone that the currently agreed part of the peace agreement obviously contains a provision on establishing diplomatic relations between Armenia and Azerbaijan, and therefore we can opt for these solutions. We propose this publicly, and I want to reiterate my willingness, our willingness to sign in the nearest possible time frame the agreed text of the peace agreement. The next important topic is, of course, the process of delimitation between the Republic of Armenia and the Republic of Azerbaijan, and we have had considerable progress here, as manifested in the fact that the relevant commissions of Armenia and Azerbaijan recently signed the regulation on the joint activities of the delimitation commissions. The regulation states or contains what the parties had declared on April 19 of this year as a result of the 8th meeting of the commissions in the statement that was published after the meeting. So, reference to the Almaty Declaration as the basic principle for the delimitation process. And it states that in the delimitation process, the sides will be governed by the Almaty Declaration. For those colleagues who wish or need to be informed in greater detail, I want to highlight that the Almaty Declaration was signed by a number of former Soviet republics, including Armenia and Azerbaijan, and that declaration contains two important provisions for the topic at stake. The first provision is this, that the Soviet Union shall cease to exist, and the second is that the countries that signed the Almaty Declaration recognize and respect each other's territorial integrity and the inviolability of the existing borders. Now, this is a very important foundation. If we were to interpret this, the relevant provision of the Almaty Declaration would mean that the Republic of Armenia and the Republic of Azerbaijan mutually recognize each other within the territories of the relevant Soviet republics, as is currently noted in Armenia and Azerbaijan. According to the agreement, this regulation is now going through domestic procedures in Armenia and Azerbaijan, approval, and I trust that at least in Armenia we will do everything to finalize this regulation. Our government has now adopted the draft, sent it to the Constitutional Court for checking its constitutionality. The next important topic for evaluating the situation in our region and establishing durable peace is, of course, the opening of regional communications, and I hope that you are aware of the Crossroads of Peace initiative adopted by the government of Armenia. This project is about communications between Armenia and Azerbaijan, railway, roads, potential cables, gas pipelines, electricity lines, other communication channels, but also that there will be a similar development between Armenia and Turkey. Of course, the Crossroads of Peace is important for us for another reason. With this project implemented, if implemented, we will be able to connect with the Islamic Republic of Iran via railway, and understandably and obviously the relationship with Iran is very important for us. We will be able to connect by railway also with Turkey, with Europe, with Russia, and of course also Azerbaijan will be able, via the territory of Armenia, to have a rail connection with Turkey, the Islamic Republic of Iran, and of course what is also important here is the railway and road connection between Nakhichevan and the rest, the main part of Azerbaijan, via the territory of Armenia. As is clear from the project, we stand ready to provide that communication, but we must also note that currently Nakhichevan does have transport connection via the territory of Iran, via the territory of Turkey. The Autonomous Republic of Nakhichevan of Azerbaijan is connected with the outside world. We stand ready at any time to engage in the implementation of this project, including the transport communication between Nakhichevan and the main part of Azerbaijan. Moreover, for about 2 years, there's a draft government decree in or around the agenda of the Armenian government, whereby we are ready to carry out this process. Now, what is hindering this process? What's hindering this process is that apparently not all of our partners are inclined to make use of the possibility that we offer. You must have heard about this. It's often discussed the extent to which the Crossroads of Peace project is in line with or consistent with the logic of the trilateral statement of November 9, 2020, among others. This discussion has reactivated recently, and there's an attempt in that discussion to present that the November 9 trilateral statement implies that the security of these communications in the territory of Armenia shall be secured by third parties or a third country. I must say straight away that that perception has nothing to do with reality. And to make it more substantiated, let me now quote the 2020 November 9 Trilateral Statement, paragraph 9. The Republic of Armenia shall guarantee transportation, communication, security between Nakhichevan and the eastern part of Azerbaijan, and the unhindered movement of citizens and cargo in both directions. As you can see, the November 9 trilateral statement provides that in the territory of Armenia, the Republic of Armenia shall have the role of ensuring the security of communications. This is open public text, and it could not be different, because it would be illogical in the territory of a sovereign country for any other country to provide security. And more broadly, I want to tell you that by referring to the November 9 trilateral statement, some international partners are trying to present something that does not exist in the November 9 statement. For example, what November 9 trilateral statement does not contain is this. It does not say that over any territory of Armenia there will be the control of another country. The November 9, 2020 trilateral statement does not contain such a provision at all. And this is a public document, I repeat. I invite everyone to search for and to find, and once you find, we don't mind if you also inform us if you were to find something other than this in the text. But such text does not exist, I can tell you, as a person who signed this paper. What is also lacking in that statement is a provision implying that the jurisdiction of the Republic of Armenia over its sovereign territory would in any way be limited in terms of customs, borders, phytosanitary and other controls. There is no such provision, simply to speak, and it could not exist. But very importantly, what I just quote it as text that does not exist in the November 9 trilateral statement. Many people try to present as provisions of the November 9 trilateral statements. This is a new diplomatic technique which I frankly do not understand, to refer to a document and to present a provision that simply does not exist in the document. Such modus operandi is not understandable to us, and to speak directly is unacceptable to us. Instead, if we want to see what the November 9 trilateral statement does contain, paragraph 9, and there's an attempt to present paragraph 9, or to present the trilateral statement as if it's a document about connecting Nakhichevan with the main part of Azerbaijan. But the paragraph reads, all economic and transport connections in the region shall be unblocked. The linkage between Nakhichevan and the main part of Azerbaijan is an internal subparagraph of paragraph 9, whereas paragraph 9 mainly is about unblocking all economic and transport connections. Paragraph 7 of the trilateral statement provides that internally displaced persons and refugees return to the Nagorno-Karabakh territory and to the adjacent regions under the supervision of the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, or the Office of the UNHCR. As you can see, after November 9, 2020, when the President of the Russian Federation and the President of Azerbaijan and myself signed these documents, thereafter, not only at that time, Nagorno-Karabakh and the Armenian refugees that left Nagorno-Karabakh and the adjacent territories have not returned to Nagorno-Karabakh and the adjacent territories, but a year ago, other events unfolded, as a consequence of which Nagorno-Karabakh was fully cleansed of Armenians as a consequence of ethnic cleansing. Paragraph 8 of the 2020 November 9 trilateral statement provides that the exchange of prisoners of war, hostages and other detained persons, as well as the bodies of the deceased, shall be carried out. To date, there are Armenian prisoners of war, hostages and other detained persons who are Armenian in Azerbaijan. They have not been returned to date, and this is also a provision that is found in the November 9 trilateral statement, and as you can see, it has not been implemented. Now, I need to tell you that unfortunately no partner has any basis for accusing Armenia of failing to implement any provision of the November 9 statement. But as you can see, the Republic of Armenia and any independent and impartial observer has grounds to say that our other partners, to the signatories to the trilateral statement, have not at least fully implemented their obligations. And so, dear ladies and gentlemen, this is the logic. Crossroads of peace, delimitation process, agreed text of the peace agreement that we propose for achieving durable and lasting peace in our region. But there may and should be a question: what are the arguments counter to these claims? Regarding the crossroads of peace, I addressed the counter arguments, and now I would like to address the counter arguments to the peace process. You recently may have heard many statements or claims that the Constitution of the Republic of Armenia allegedly contains territorial demands on Azerbaijan. Now, what substantiates these claims? By those who try to substantiate it, by saying, for instance, that the preamble to the Constitution contains partial reference to the Declaration of Independence of Armenia adopted on August 23, 1990. That is, still when the Soviet Union existed. The declaration refers to a joint decision of the Armenian Soviet Socialist Republic Supreme Council and the Nagorno-Karabakh National Council on the reunification of the Armenian Soviet Socialist Republic and Nagorno-Karabakh, dated December 1, 1989. This may seem like a grounded argument, but let me go to paragraph 5 of the declaration, and I apologize for going into this level of detail, but they try to engage in a broad public discussion of a topic that we should understand in full detail. The Declaration of Independence of Armenia states that the Republic of Armenia shall, for securing its security and the inviolability of borders, create forces, internal troops, state and social and public security bodies under the Supreme Council. This was adopted on August 23, 1990. In other words, the police, the troops, the security bodies shall be subordinate to the Parliament, the Supreme Council. But in 1995, when the Constitution of the Republic of Armenia was adopted, and even before that, all security agencies, law enforcement agencies in Armenia were subordinate to the President of the Republic. And after the 2015 constitutional amendments, they have been subordinate to the government. And what this means is the provisions of the Declaration of Independence are reflected in the Constitution of Armenia insofar as they are reflected literally and verbatim, which is an important principle of our legal architecture, that we need to understand laws and texts of laws literally and verbatim. The Constitution of Armenia says nothing about all those claims that they try to make in reference to the Constitution of Armenia. So this, similar to the November 9 statement, is a situation where they try to attribute to the Constitution of Armenia something which is not written in the text and does not exist in the text of the Constitution of Armenia. On the contrary, paragraph 3 of Article 5 of Armenia's Constitution stipulates that in case of conflict between the ratified treaties of Armenia and the laws of Armenia, the international treaty provisions shall apply. And this is another key principle. The peace agreement between Armenia and Azerbaijan, as to be ratified by the Parliament of Armenia, would mean that this agreement does not contradict the Constitution. The moment it is ratified, it becomes superior to all other potential laws, and this is another factor to be taken into consideration. However, I wish to note that reality is somewhat different. Reality is that Azerbaijan's constitution contains territorial demands towards the Republic of Armenia. Now, what substantiates this? The Constitutional Act of Azerbaijan, adopted in 1991, is the foundation of Azerbaijan's constitution, and this is stated in Azerbaijan's constitution. The Constitutional Act, in turn, refers to and is, according to the Constitutional Act, stemming from the declaration of creation of the first Azerbaijani Republic in 1918. So the Constitution is based on the Constitutional Act, or the State Independence Act adopted in 1991. The State Independence Act of 1991 is in turn based on the 1918 Declaration of Independence of Azerbaijan. And the Declaration of Independence of 1918 proclaims that Azerbaijan's territory shall include the eastern and southern Transcaucasia. Moreover, in 1919, at the Paris Peace Conference, and the map presented for the registration of the Democratic Republic of Azerbaijan in the League of Nations, the maps contain the Sunik and Vayottor Marses of Armenia fully, as well as parts of the Ararat, Armavir, Kegarkunik, Tavush, Lori, and Shirak Marses of Armenia. In other words, all of this makes obvious that Azerbaijan's constitution does contain territorial claims on the Republic of Armenia. But it's important also to note that we're not turning this into a topic for the negotiations. We're not raising this issue because in the agreed text of the peace agreement, there is a provision that reads as follows, that none of the parties may invoke the provisions of its internal legislation as justification for its failure to perform the present international agreement. In other words, we see on the one hand that Azerbaijan's constitution does contain territorial claims on the Republic of Armenia, but we're not raising that issue in order not to drive the peace process into deadlock. Also because we consider, as I mentioned in the beginning of my speech, the text of the peace agreement fully addresses this problem, and an international treaty provides that the parties may not invoke their domestic legislation as justification for failure to comply with their obligations in an international agreement. And dear colleagues, this brings me back to where I began. And I wish to reiterate that this is truly an important moment for our region, for us to take what we have agreed upon. Let me just repeat, this is agreed and the representatives of Azerbaijan have admitted. This is really essentially 80% of the potential substance of the peace agreement. So we have Armenia and Azerbaijan together have more than a controlling share, if I may use that metaphor, a controlling package over a peace agreement. And we propose that the 13+3 agreed provisions be put on the table, to sign them now, and to move on to the discussion of other questions. And I very much hope that this esteemed audience will agree there was never any agreement that addressed and solved all problems. There is no such agreement. Whatever agreement we sign with 20 articles, 30, 40, 50, 100 articles, there will still be 200, 300 potential articles that will be not addressed in that agreement. There are no countries that regulate their relationship through one agreement only, but it's important, very important, to set the foundation, or to not reject the foundation that has already been laid after our years of negotiation. And I hope that in the near future we will have a chance to sign the already agreed part of the peace agreement and to move on with the rest of the negotiations, solve the other potential issues. Honorable President of the Republic of Armenia, dear colleagues, I thank you for your attention, and I wish the best of luck Yerevan Dialogue International Conference, not just in 2024, but also in 2025, 2026, and the years to come. Thank you.